Okay, we should be starting. And it's recording. Hello, everyone. So the fun thing about this is that I can't see anyone, which is strange, but I do see that we have 17 participants. So welcome, welcome, welcome to the Delta Investment Spotlight. For those of you who don't know, who just somehow managed to sign up for this Zoom meeting without knowing what was going on, we are here as a part of the Delta Philanthropy Forum. The Delta Philanthropy Forum is a really neat entity that came together out of a need and an excitement to bring investment to the Delta. And so the purpose of why we're here today is to illuminate what does it look like to think strategically about investing in the Delta, especially at the intersection of education and workforce development. We're going to dive right in because we have half an hour together, which is super quick. And so the way this is going to go is I'm going to actually let these two people introduce themselves so that I don't talk too long about how cool they are because they're really great. And there will be Q&A at the end. If you are having a challenge with, I don't know, typing in the chat, you can email me at vmelendez@lisk.org. But the chat should be functional. So please put your questions, your comments, the things you're excited about in the chat. It would be really great to see you all's reactions, and there will be time at the end for Q&A. So without further ado, I'm going to go off camera so I don't, distract you from these two great minds here today. And I'm going to turn it over to Kim Davis.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Victoria. Kim Davis, president of the Carl B. and Florence E. King Foundation. I've been at the King Foundation for approximately a little over a year now. Uh, Prior to my time at the King Foundation, I was at the Walton Family Foundation and led their work in the Arkansas and Mississippi Delta region. So when we say Delta, the Delta Philanthropy Forum at the moment is specifically talking about Arkansas and Mississippi. There have been conversations around the idea of expanding to Louisiana and some other states, and we're definitely up for that conversation. When I started at Walton, someone I met immediately was the gentleman we have who is our guest today, Sanford Johnson. And Sanford and I have become, I think, real not only champions for the Delta, but also friends. And so I'm very happy to have him here with me. Sanford, before we get into kind of what you do and all that sort of stuff, what do you love about the Delta?
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love the people. I've gotten a chance to connect with so many people here in Clarksdale. I grew up born in Cleveland, Mississippi. I've also spent time in Helena, Arkansas. So there are very few places in the Delta where I don't know people. So like I know people there. I know where all the good lunch spots are. So yeah, I would say the people, the food, the history, the culture, the schools, like there's so much that I love about this area. And this is home.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about what you do. I mentioned kind of my role and what I do. I'd love to hear just a little bit more about what you're up to these days.
Sure, sure. I've been the executive director of Teach Plus Mississippi ever since 2020. In fact, my first day on the job was the first day of the lockdown. If you remember that time where we were supposed to be out of school for like 2 weeks or so, and then it went on beyond that. When I first started, I got a chance to launch the Mississippi Policy Fellowship and also launch the Arkansas Advisory Board, which eventually became Teach Plus Arkansas. So I've been leading the work for a couple of years now and really excited that we're actually going to combine the two regions. So I'll be the executive director of Teach Plus Arkansas and Mississippi going forward. And we'll have a policy fellowship that includes teacher leaders from both states.
Tell me a little bit more. I want you to break that down a little bit, right? For folks who don't know what Teach Plus is, give us an
Sure.
understanding around the work that you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, so the purpose of the work that we do is to recruit and train and empower teachers to get involved in policy making, mostly at the state level. So we have excellent teachers who are doing amazing things in the classroom. And what we do is provide opportunities for them to share their experience along with policy research and advocacy skills to help influence policy through the state capitol, also through the State Department of Education. So our teachers spend time analyzing research. They conduct focus groups. They write op-eds. They write policy briefs and memos. They meet with legislative leaders in their state departments of education, all for the purpose of improving policies that are going to benefit kids. We've had a lot of success over the past couple of years. So our teachers have been involved in teacher pay raise campaigns. They've increased access to high quality student data. They've had an impact on how we fund our schools. And a lot of our work right now, not just in Mississippi, but also in Arkansas, is focused on how do we make sure that students are ready for post-secondary success. Whatever they want to do after high school, we want to make sure that they have the knowledge and skills needed to be successful.
Yeah. And so let's continue that through line, if you will, right? This idea of doing the work that you do so that students, kids, families, young adults are successful. Sounds like what you're talking about here. I mean, we can't talk about success, particularly in this day and age, without talking about the idea of education and what it does in regards to economic mobility, and how. Tell me how Teach Plus plays a part in sort of moving the issue of economic mobility to the forefront and
Mhm.
make the connection around why that's critically important in communities like the Delta.
For sure, for sure. So, I have a personal story that I would tell, and that's around the fact that my father and 13 of his brothers and sisters grew up in rural Mississippi, but all graduated from college. So, my dad and 12 of his brothers and sisters went to Alcorn. One of my uncles went to Valley. So, I have seen firsthand like the value and the transformational power of an education. So that's what I came into this work. That's what inspired me to do Teach for America and come to the Delta and stay in the Delta. The focus of the work that we have been doing through Teach Plus is to make sure that we have opportunities for all of our students with a specific interest in students in the Delta, knowing that this is an area where there haven't been the same opportunities that you see in suburban Memphis, suburban Jackson, suburban Little Rock, other parts of our state, and making sure that every student in all of our different regions get to live out their full potential. So the things that we've been focused on is access to better data. How do we actually measure how students are doing as they're moving towards career pathways? How successful are they after they get out of high school? So being able to have access to that data, are we making sure that students have the foundational knowledge and skills that they need in order to be able to pursue whatever pathway they're interested in? And then also, are there great ideas that we can test in the Delta? Let's implement things that are working in other parts of the country. Let's see if we can make it work in the Delta, because if we can make it work here, then we can make it work anywhere. So that's where
Yeah.
our policy fellows have really been focused in on.
Yeah, and Sanford, I kind of know this, and I don't think you mentioned it in the intro. This idea of what you all were able to do around teacher pay raises, specifically
Yeah.
in Mississippi, and bring value to that process, right? Through the ability for you all to sort of gather the data in regards to teachers across the state. Can you talk about that process a little bit, and where you then provided that information, and what was the response from policymakers in regards to having that critical information around what teachers would like to see?
Yes, yes. So we had a couple of teachers who were a part of a coalition that was supporting an effort to boost teacher pay. Like we knew that there were a lot of teachers in Mississippi who were working hard every single day, but weren't making a living wage. So we knew that we needed at least a $3,000 pay raise in Mississippi to at least approach the regional average. We ended up getting an $1,100 pay raise that first time around. And one of our policy fellows wrote an email, like wrote an op-ed, a teacher from Greenville who was able to say, thank you for this $1,100. We'll be back for the rest of it next year. We had an opportunity the following year to submit public comments. We were invited by the Senate Education Committee to submit public comments. Through those comments that our teachers were sharing, we realized that we had a lot of teachers who had second jobs. So that led to a campaign where we were showing teachers in their second job. So we had teachers who were bartenders, teachers who were working with DoorDash, teachers in some of our most highly resourced school districts who were also tutoring and doing second jobs. And what really gave us an opportunity to have an impact, we went to one of the hearings that our Senate Education Chair was hosting in the Delta. And he said, like, these are the five things that we're considering around this pay raise. And I was able to talk to him after the meeting and say, hey, we can survey teachers to find out what they would prioritize. So our teachers conducted a survey, put the questions together, sent it out to 1,900 teachers. We taught them how to analyze the results. They wrote a policy brief, and we were able to share that with the legislature, saying teachers want a $3,000 pay raise off the top. They want step increases every 5 years. They want an additional bonus. They also want you to address health insurance issues because teachers were very concerned that any pay raise they received would be gobbled up by premiums. So we were able to share that with legislators, and a lot of the things that we were recommended ended up in the final bill. So it gave us a real taste of what teachers can do when it comes down to issue education.
Yeah, and a little bit of a pivot. This is personal for you. You got two youngsters who are coming up through the system right now, so I'm sure you want to make sure that they get the best teacher in front of them, the best education possible to continue that progress toward higher education attainment that your family established.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've got two daughters, a rising 10th grader and a rising seventh grader, and they are here in the Mississippi Delta. And one of the things that I always try to stress is that kids in the Delta are as capable and deserve as many resources as any other kid in the country. And I'm always looking to partner with organizations and philanthropic organizations that see the same value in the Delta as I do. And this is a place that really deserves investment.
Yeah. And so now there's an opportunity. You mentioned this idea of Arkansas and Mississippi kind of coming together, right? So
Yes.
almost like a Teach Plus Delta in this state. Talk to me a little bit about what do you think are the opportunities? I mean, as I think about, my time I spent in Arkansas and what's happening on the Arkansas side, just in the education space, right? This idea of surveying teachers, utilizing surveys, that's how do you see this kind of coming together to create a really fantastic cohort and alumni base of Teach Plus individuals that help move this work forward?
I'm really excited about how we're going to be able to combine our powers across the two different regions. So, when you look at our Mississippi Policy Fellows, we've made a lot of progress this year when it comes down to access to data. So, students are going to have individual success plans that are not only going to be started by seventh grade, but updated every single year. We're able to make some significant changes to our state longitudinal data system. So we'll be able to find out how our students are doing after they graduate. And then in Arkansas, Stacy McAdoo, who was the executive director of Teach Plus Arkansas, has put together one of the most impressive runs when it comes down to being able to elevate teacher voice through op-eds. I think they had 13 op-eds that were published this year
Wow.
across the state of Arkansas, which is absolutely incredible. So her real strength around elevating teacher voice through op-eds, through panel discussions, through webinars, through podcasts. And what I think we're going to be able to do is combine our ability to identify not only what policies need to be adopted, but exactly how those policies need to be adopted and implemented, like who's the right institution that we need to reach out to, and being able to use teacher voice and op-eds and our memos and the ability to elevate teacher voice to make sure that we can build support not just in the legislature and the Department of Education, but also through the general public to support things that are going to benefit kids.
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that. All right. Sanford, we're in a safe space right now. All right.
Okay.
I know, you and I know each other, and so it doesn't really matter to you that, I'm a funder or that kind of bit, right? And we got some other folks who we can't see but are on the webinar and the listening around this work. I'm going to ask you to speak truth to us. Like,
Okay.
what are some things that we can do on the philanthropic side to support education in the Delta? What are some things we can do, and what are some things that we aren't doing or are doing that works really well?
So I would say the big headline would be supporting deeper investment within organizations here in the Delta. I would say encourage collaboration. And I would say prioritize investment over charity. Now, to explain that a little bit, before I started at Teach Plus, I was working at Mississippi First. I did a lot of work around teen pregnancy prevention. And we had a policy opportunity where we were working with the State Department of Health on just a middle school and high school sex ed program. So we wanted districts to adopt that policy. Here's the curriculum. We'll train teachers. From that work, we recognized, okay, we need way more trainers because we just cannot reach all of the schools. And we also recognize that students need access to youth-friendly health facilities. So we need to work in that area. We realized we need a whole separate organization that can lead this work. So that's where Teen Health Mississippi was launched. And now Teen Health Mississippi has now launched Teen Health Arkansas. So as the work continues and you identify, okay, here's a barrier that needs to be broken down, here's some additional barriers that may limit access. So being able to learn as you're doing the work, figuring out where does the work need to go from there, and having funders who would look at that, have these conversations with the organizations, and then let me support you in doing this other work. Let me also help you connect with other organizations that are doing this work. I've seen firsthand what that actually looks like. And that's something that I'm hoping that we can also do at Teach Plus Mississippi and Teach Plus Arkansas. And I know some other organizations are interested in that too. The last point around investment, I think the difference between charity and investment, when I think about charity, I think about you are relieving the pain that could be felt from current conditions. Very short term, very here and the now. When I think about investment, you're thinking, how is this going to benefit people a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And I think charity is great, but I think what I would love to see more of in the Delta is that deep investment. Like I'm really going to put my not only my money, but my advice, my time into organizations that are here, they're grounded in this community, and they are thinking long term. Like the things that we're working on right now, like I know we may not see like a huge impact in 1 year, but I feel like there are students who are in middle school, high school, elementary school right now who are going to have way more opportunities because of the work that we're doing right now. And we're going to continue to build on it. We're going to continue to identify and overcome barriers here. So I would say those three things, like deeper investment, encouraging collaboration, and also making sure that while charity is good, that investment is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Help me sell this to my board, Sanford.
Okay.
Because when I walk into my board and we look at demographic data, there is no doubt that the need is definitely there. But what may not be there, right, is just a pure number of individuals, right? So why should a foundation be thinking about investing in some place like the Delta that may have 5,000 people versus, a mid-major city that may have 500,000 people?
I would say that the the lack of resources that we currently have here is a major issue. I think about students who are interested in different career pathways where if they lived in Rankin County or if they lived in DeSoto County or if they lived in Northwest Arkansas, they may have access to every career technical program you can imagine. They have access to all the career coaching they need. They have access to 2 year colleges, 4 year colleges. Everything is there. Students in Humphreys County, Coahoma County, Sunflower County, Phillips County may not have that same access. So, how do we ensure that students in every single county in our respective states have the access to the opportunities that they need? I also believe that the Delta could really be a testing ground for policies that can impact the entire state. So if we're able to make big wins around college and career readiness, preparing students for post-secondary success, there could be opportunities where we are talking to state policymakers and saying, hey, We think that this would be good for all kids, and we know that it would work because we've seen it work in the Mississippi Delta. I think it's very similar to what we've seen in reading. There are a lot of states around the country right now that are changing the way they're teaching reading, especially at the elementary level, because we were able to say, hey, we actually tried this in Mississippi and look at the results. Look at where we started and look at where we are right now. This is how you teach kids how to read. And there are states that have adopted policies based on what we were able to test here in Mississippi. I think we can do the exact same thing, not just in reading, but in post-secondary success.
Yeah, I will tell you when Mississippi did what it did in regards to reading, everyone took notice. I mean, it emphasizes the point you just mentioned, right? Folks were kind of, hey, wait a minute, like Mississippi, like they're able to do this in Mississippi. Can you imagine, right? Now,
Yeah.
if I'm not from Mississippi, my heart is always in the Delta. It's low key offensive. Let's be real.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind it's kind of a backhanded compliment, right? But to your point, all right, if we could get it right here in the most under-resourced, underutilized, unappreciated sort of communities, just imagine what we can do, not only with additional resources, but what we can do in other places. The other thing I will
Absolutely.
say is it's interesting to me when it comes to demographics and per capita and that sort of stuff. We never have these conversations in places that are wealthy, right? Nobody talks about Aspen in the same way. Like, nobody talks about Jackson Hole I mean,
Yeah.
folks just go the investments there. People are excited to support. People are excited to connect and all this and develop and figure out answers and all this sort of stuff. So it's always interesting to me that it's not really a numbers issue as much as folks would like to make it a numbers issue, right? It
Mhm.
really is a perception and a view issue. So anyway, that's always something I'm thinking about and noodling on when I hear folks sort of say, folks are just kind of, there's not a population density there. Why should we invest all these dollars? And if you those same folks, like I said, are heading to Jackson Hole and sort of, doing their summer vacation there, and it's not an
Right.
issue around how much is that place getting or will be getting or how many checks they're writing. So I think it's really interesting. Hey, a couple more questions, and then we may have
Sure.
some in the chat. 2 to 3 policies, practices. If you can put them in place tomorrow regarding students in the Delta, what are those 2 or 3?
Ooh, so I'm thinking about the progress that we made towards data, and what I would love to see is data-driven student support. For example, thinking about the success plans and the fact that every kid is going to have a success plan, hopefully this year. And I'm thinking, what kind of decisions can we make at the district level and at the community level if we know what career pathways our students are interested in? If students are really interested in STEM fields, you better make sure that you've got the advanced math and science in your school. If you don't, how do you get it? If students are interested in different career pathways, and this could be a second thing, how do we get districts to work together on making sure that students have access to different career pathways? I spent some time in Southern Texas last year, and I got to visit a couple of different school districts where they had created a partnership around CTE programs, where this district has a CTE program around welding, this one has HVAC, this one's got, medical sciences, and students were able to travel to another district, spend 2 hours learning about that program that would end in an industry recognized credential. Then they come back and finish the rest of their school day in their home school district. I would love to see those kind of partnerships in the Mississippi and Arkansas Delta. I think the third thing that I would recommend would be around teacher leadership. And I've heard from so many teachers, as we've been talking about teacher pay, where folks have said, I want leadership opportunities. I want the ability to mentor teachers, provide professional development for teachers. I do not want to be a principal. I still want to work closely with kids. I want to work with teachers. I do not want to go into administration. And I think there's some really innovative things that are happening around school staffing where we can create leadership opportunities for teachers where they can provide the mentorship, provide the professional development for teachers, while at the same time still working closely with students. So I would definitely implement that as a third thing. So let's use data to better support students. Let's do more district partnerships, and then let's create those leadership opportunities for teachers.
Yeah. Hey, Sanford, before we get Victoria back on the screen here to close us out with a question or two, um, why don't you and I make a commitment here today? And that commitment is if we have funders that are interested in coming to the Delta, you and I will meet them there. We will meet them in any part of the Delta that they're interested in. We will introduce them to the folks that they may want to know. We'll give them a better understanding around why this place that you live and I love is so special, right? And we'll even take them to a couple of juke joints, give them a good French fry, right?
Absolutely.
And and help them really understand. I would tell people all the time, it is a really magical place in my opinion, and I compare it in a lot of ways to the Wizard of Oz, right? Instead of the Emerald City, you have the kudzu, right? That takes the shape of anything that it covers.
It's still green. Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
green.
it's still you
Absolutely.
still got that green, and you want to talk about characters, right? That place is full of characters. It may not have lions and tigers and tin mins and that sort of stuff, but I tell you,
Yes.
the type of characters that you find in the Delta with some real deep understanding, knowledge, and lifelong experience to help you think about the work differently, we'd be willing to kind of take them on that tour. You up for it?
I am completely up for it. I've been recruiting people to stay in the Delta ever since Amanda back in 2005. So that's my wife, by the way, y'all. So yeah, I am completely down for that. Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right, Victoria, I see you back on the screen. Do we have a couple questions before we close this out?
We do. There's a question from Emily Tillman. How can we approach this district partnership? I think it's a tremendous idea.
So what I'm really thinking about right now is I would love to see an inventory of what career technical education programs currently exist. What programs do districts have? Do those programs actually end in an industry certification? So are students ready for the workforce as soon as they leave those programs? I'm also thinking that there's a way to take that data and also compare it with the career pathways data. If we have student success plans, and this is something that we can do in both states right now, because I believe Arkansas is about to implement Launch, which is another success plan program in Arkansas. I think there's a way to map all that data together to figure out, okay, I've got a bunch of students who are interested in welding. You got a bunch of students who are interested in automotive. Can I send my automotive students to your district? You send your welding students over here. That means instead of trying to support two programs in our district, we can get one really great program here. You get one really great program there. And let's see if we can share those resources. I think that's something that is going to be necessary in order for us to really utilize the resources that we have in the Mississippi Delta. And I love to see those district partnerships. And I think it's probably something we can also do around some of the advanced classes. Like, is there a way to do the same thing around advanced placement courses, around your physics, your chemistry? Is there a way to increase access to advanced coursework, just like you can increase access to CTE programs? So this is something that we're new at looking at, but I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Victoria, any other questions? I know we're getting close to time here.
No, there aren't. There is one little side chat that I wanted to shout out because I think it's really neat. Someone named Lori Gilmore, Chief Development Officer at Girl Scouts Heart of the South, reached out to share that she's present here today. And Amanda McBride responded asking about troops in specific counties looking for community work. So I just wanted to shout out. That's something that is so neat. I was a Brownie. I moved before I became a Girl Scout, but but there's just so much richness in that educational opportunity, and like that's definitely an important intervention in the area. Well, I know that we're out of time, so just any last parting shots from Sanford and Kim before I let everyone go?
Well,
I
mine
feel
is
like
going to
I need
be
to. Oh,
Go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead,
wait, I'm
Kim.
actually
Sorry.
going to pause this because we got one last question. This is the
Okay.
very last question from Bronwyn Robertson. I might have missed this, but do the high school CTE programs partner with the local community college? And then your
I
parting
think
shot,
yeah,
and then
I think that some of those partnerships do exist. I think it varies community to community, district to community college. I am hoping that by using data, we can encourage more of those partnerships because I think there's some opportunities to create partnerships between school districts, higher ed institutions, as well as communities. Like if you know what students are interested in, can you create internship, job shadowing opportunities? Also, if you're a business owner and you recognize that students aren't really expressing a lot of interest in your field based on success plans, how are you going to engage with that school district to build support? Like, hey, here's a opportunity right for you in this community. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm
The
hoping that
thing
data
that's
will be able to
yeah,
lead
the
us
thing
to.
that's a challenge around the CTE, and I know I'm speaking to the to choir, right? When school districts, as they should, align with what's most in demand in community, it's also in demand on the private side. And so it's
Mhm.
very challenging to try to stand something up, particularly with an instructor or a teacher, if you're locked into the typical kind of day hours, right? When that individual understands that they can get 30, 40, 50% time their pay than if they what they would get if they were receiving it just from the classroom, right? So we gotta
Mm.
figure that piece out. And that's a chance for philanthropy to step up. Right. There may be an opportunity for us to say, hey, we understand that if you are working in our schools helping develop these students, right, there's a 30% pay cut that you're probably going to be taking. How do we figure out how to kind of close that gap? The last thing I'll say, and once again, I know we are over time. These are the most in demand jobs. I mean, I can, I've been to the Delta hundreds of times, and almost every time I'm inquiring or encountering someone who has difficulty with skills trades, right? They're trying to stand up a business, and the welder is coming from 150 miles away because there's no one that's insured or bond certified in the area, right? So, how do we begin to develop this type of individual from the community? Because the work is there. We just need to figure out how we go about doing that. Sorry about that. Victoria, I'll let you close this out.
don't apologize. That is spot on. Also, I believe it's a plumber's world and we're just living in it because if if a plumber goes outside right now in the corner and is like, anyone need a plumber, there's going to be a line 4 blocks long, all right? Like, and we got to be mindful that a lot of these jobs are the least likely to be replaced by AI right now, right? There's a lot of
Very
things
true.
that a 4-year degree is getting replaced in that. I mean, my HVAC guy couldn't come over because he was spending 2 weeks in Dubai. So clearly there's something going on with these trades that we haven't been paying enough attention to. So yeah, and Sanford, I'll let you give us our last little note and then I'll let everyone go because we're over. But thank you all for being here today. This was splendid. This was recorded, so we are going to share it out. And I'll let you, Sanford, close us out for our time of the Delta Investment Spotlight.
Well, I feel like I'm obligated to give a shout out to Girl Scout Troop 3032. So I've got to do that. There are usually boxes of cookies at my house at any point, like, especially at the turn of the year. Yeah, here they come. I would also say that there, as we're having these conversations around career pathways, I recognize that there are requirements, there are needs of the business sector, there are needs of like our higher ed institutions. I also want to make sure that we keep students front and center. And what I would like to see is an education system that prepares students to live out their talents and aspirations. And I think there's a way to do all of that where we can fill the jobs that need to be filled today and 5 years from now, while at the same time making sure that students have the opportunity to explore a wealth of different possibilities and identify a career pathway that works for them. So I'm excited about this both and challenge that we get to work on together.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. And I hope you have a fantastic day. And let's keep shining a light on the Delta because there's so much great work happening, and we can all be a part of it. Thanks, everyone.
Such a pleasure. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks a lot.